Well. Welcome to H&H. Do y'all remember H&H Music? Do you remember H&H Music?
Dude, I totally do. I don't know if that's just a Texas thing, because I really don't know if they were only based in Houston or not. But dude, would you believe that H&H Music, believe it or not, was the first actual, I think in some ways, the first actual job I ever had.
What?
Yeah, and here's why, dude. Real quick, because, dude, we're just coming right in. Here's what's crazy about that is that, dude, for one, it was right when I was really getting interested in keyboards. And I remember my dad taking me, and at the time, it was really the only cool music store because, like, Guitar Centers and all of that
didn't exist.
Didn't exist. And so this was like the mega store of Houston. And I remember going down there. There was this old guy in the keyboard area that
I remember seeing that old guy.
Oh my! Know exactly what I'm talking about, dude. Don't you? Matter of fact, dude, yes. I think that dude's name was Lyle. I'd have to go back and double check, but dude, I think that dude's name was Lyle. Needless to say, between my dad, who's a very good smooth talker, he ended up getting me an opportunity to actually go down there and work. Now, mind you, they couldn't really pay me much because I was like young and I think under certain age or whatnot. But here was the trick. The guy promised me if I worked good and learned the equipment that was in there, there was a sequencer in there that I really wanted. And He told me, he said, "Look, if you can figure this thing out, I'll give it to you."
No,
and dude, that sucker was a beast to try to figure out because it was not one of the newer ones. It was an old school one. But anyways, that's crazy, dude.
H&H. And hopefully the name of this podcast, we won't be sued.
No, that is so true. We didn't think that one out. There you go, everybody. No. That's how fresh and right out the gate this is.
Right out the gate, H&H. Hopefully H&H Music is bankrupt and they don't sue us. So
I don't know. I have to check I think they were off of I-10, weren't they?
They were. You know it, man. Wow.
Maybe
Blast
next
from the
time,
past,
next time I'm driving down I-10, I'm gonna have to check to see if that place is still there.
See if it's still there. Okay.
All right. So why don't you tell me what is H&H?
Okay. All right. So one of the H's is me. That's Cam. Hunt. That's H. Like Hunt's ketchup. But I don't have that kind of money. Yes. And then you're the other H. What's the other H?
So the other H stands for Scott Hussey. Yes, you heard it, Hussey. Yes. Yeah. And so that steps into the next thing of all of this. So believe it or not, for those of you who are listening and getting to know us, yes. Both Cam and myself are pastors. So not only am I a pastor, but I also have the last name Hussey. Oh, man, that right there has got issues all over it.
Man, well, I mean, people come up to you and like, Pastor Hussey, what the heck is that?
Well, let me just put it this way, bro. There was a season in my life where I was on the road touring, and it was before I met my wife, I literally went by Scott Michael instead of Scott Hussey because I just thought, you know what? It's going to cause too many issues.
You're like, I can't do that to people.
No.
Because what if I'm really ministering to a hussy?
No doubt.
A real life hussy.
So here's the next thing for those of you who are listening, and that is Cam is actually my brother-in-law. So he's married to my sister, who actually, thank God, he took her away from the Hussey name that she so bared for so many years, and he helped free her of that.
Can I tell you something? I did free her. Hey, but you know what? Really, I fell in love with that last name. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Like, because she is the opposite of that last name.
Yeah.
She is the complete opposite of, totally. What people are. So I fell in love with that last name. But listen, if she's ever bothering me, I'm sorry, Scott. I call her by her last name. I'm like, Kendra Hussey?
That's awesome.
I do. I have to do it. Oh man.
Sweet. So hey, you want to tell them what this is all about. Why in the world are we cutting out a portion of our time in our crazy life to do this?
So part of what we wanted to do for people who are listening, we want to be the voice of reason when it comes to things that are in the world, things that are happening in in religious circles, crazy things that you see out there, things in the political sphere, because politics and religion kind of mesh, they mesh together.
Yep.
And so we want to be the voice of reason to believers out there, to people out there. Not even, we're not saying, hey, we're here for just people who are believers or Christians. No. I want this to be inclusive. I want to bring people into that conversation, because what you're going to hear here is a level of rawness. I don't even know if that's a word.
Oh no! It's a word. It is. I guarantee it's in Wikipedia. Rawness. Rawness. If it's not, it's going in after this show.
Rawness. There's going to be a level of rawness that you hear on this podcast from week to week that will be. It's going to sound funny, but it's going to be refreshing to people who are in this, religious, political circle. There's going to be a rawness that's going to be refreshing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying.
Yep.
I mean, add on to that. What am I saying?
Well, for one, I think, first of all, one of the things that triggered this for both of us was, when we're together, you and I, it seems like constantly we're sitting at the table and just some thought or just idea comes up and we start talking on it. And and I've always loved, because I feel like there's such great perspective that comes out of it, because we're two different individuals. We have two different ideas, and yet at the same time, there's such a peace when we communicate, and there's a lot of things to it. And so the more that we had those conversations, especially in the last few months, the more it was like, dude, we need to actually bring this to a place where people can actually, get something from it. Because a lot of these things we're talking about, man, people are wanting to talk about them, but here's the truth, Cam. A lot of them are afraid to.
They are.
A lot of them are afraid to. And here's another part of it. Certain ones, based on what their position is, what their career is, they're afraid to even be honest with themselves about it. And so,
that's true.
I mean, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm nervous with it, but at the same time, I think it's one of those things that we live in a time now when people are desperate to hear, that real rawness and truth and perspective and stuff. And
you know what? Me too. Let me jump in and say, am I nervous? I am, but I feel like what we're going to do, we're not going to name call, we're not going to point fingers and say, this is wrong. We may say something is wrong. Like we may say, we feel like from our personal perspective, this is wrong. But I want to be a landing page for people who have been beat up by, a church system. That's kind of my, that's kind of my heart, where I want people to come here and say, and hear a voice and say, you know what? I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. This happened to me and I'm not crazy. So yeah, man, am I nervous? I am. But again, we're not going to, nobody's going to get we're not going to call names. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
Hopefully we won't. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and what you said um goes like Scott, you've got some history with the church. And I'm just gonna come out and say this, and maybe
Yeah.
this is the conversation starter. Um, when I first started to get into ministry, my story I didn't understand what you were going through, but
Mm.
it took some time to get to a level where I understood what you're going through, and I'm just going to say it. The reason you have such a interesting and good perspective is because I feel like you have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you've kind of been beat up in ministry a little bit. That's what makes you good,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. And
right?
honestly, that's completely right, bro. And here's the thing, it's crazy because, when just as you say that, it's amazing how quickly, matter of fact, I've just kind of walked through a season of that. And it's amazing how quickly you can go and recall how frustrated and aggravated you were with God, going, God, why are you putting me in this? Come on. I mean, what did I do to deserve this? And yet what you just said is so true. And that is this: how we grow as individuals is by going through those situations. I mean, reality is if we don't go through situations, dude, how are we going to grow? I mean,
You're not. You're not.
you're not. Yeah, you're not. It's crazy because just as I said this, the thing that came through my mind was when you look at a tree and how the fact that a tree, the wood of it makes so many things, but when they cut that tree down and they go take it to the mill, how it's ripped apart, how it's shredded down, how it's filed down, all of that, dude, that's what determines what its beauty is really going to be and what its real purpose was for. I mean, we look at the tree and go, at that point when we're driving down the road going, man, if this thing falls, it's going to destroy something. Or we look at it and think, man, that thing's got to be bored. It just sits there all of its life and just does what it does. Little do we know that that's just the starting point of that thing. Eventually somebody's going to chop that thing down and go, you know what? So I'm going to make paper out of this, or I'm going to make an amazing piece of furniture out of this. Or guess what? Thing could become a guitar, making the most amazing music. And yet it all came from this thing that just literally got established from the creator himself. And it had to go through the mill. It had to go through all of these refining processes for it to actually come to what its ultimate purpose was for. And you're right, man.
That is so good. And
Dude, and that just dropped on me right now. Man, it must be, I gotta have, so I'm just gonna be real honest. I'm drinking a really good glass of medium sweet tea, and when I drink a glass of medium sweet tea, something just happens.
Something comes
man.
over you. It's called diabetes. That's what comes
that's
over
awesome.
you. Yeah. Hey, what you said, dude, what? I mean, somebody's going to steal that and use it because,
Oh, man.
bro, well, one, the thing I'm thinking about when you're saying all that about the tree is, one, there's a bunch of hippies that are ticked at you right now.
We just lost some listeners, didn't we?
Yeah, you just lost some some of those guys. But what you said is so true. That people are gonna chop down trees. People are gonna chop, just using that tree analogy. People are gonna chop it down, but it has so much potential.
Oh yeah,
is what you're saying. There's so much. There's so much in it.
Yep.
And it's gonna go through a ripping and a tearing process. Just like baking a cake. You've got all these ingredients. Some lady comes in, she beats up all those ingredients, puts it into a bowl, and on the other side of being heated up, it comes out a cake. And so, I mean, that's been kind of your walk in ministry. And I mean, what's your take on just continuing in this conversation? What's your take on This is a broad subject of something I'm about to say. This is pretty broad. I bet
we may
this is
have
on.
to do. Yeah, this may be a couple episodes.
This may be a couple episodes, but I mean, give me your thoughts on just as the church in whole. So I feel like you've been beat up by the church, and what are some things that need to change, man? What do you? I mean, what are some things that you see that that need to change? Because you're not the only one being beat up, and sometimes people are beating up people in the name of Jesus, and Jesus is not beating people up.
Yeah. No.
So I mean, what are some things that need to change when it comes to that, man? Let's just jump in on that. And well, I mean, what do you think, man?
Well, first of all, I think the church, the big church itself,
universal church, yes,
is the most successful thing that has ever crossed this earth. And so I'm so thankful of the one, who truly birthed that and where it's at. At the same time, man, the second man gets involved with it, ideas, perspectives, lack of humility and self-gain all fall into it. And I think that's what we've seen over the years is that happening, and it literally drifting away from the reality of what Jesus brought,
or from the original intent of the church.
Exactly.
It has morphed. It has morphed into this. And really, man, I just posted something on Facebook that people are responding to so well, and it's that the church is not a building, it's not a sermon, it's not a stage, it's a person.
Yep.
But we've turned this thing into a business. And when you turn it into a business, then and man is involved, like you just said, so you turn it into a business, man gets involved, and here's what happens. Corrupt business principles enter into the church. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And here's the thing with that. I mean, if we want to break it down to really what that is, Cam, the responsibility falls on us as leaders, because reality is you don't find that corruptness happening from somebody who's coming to find God. It's after they've gotten into it and they've started to see the system of it, and they start looking to, I hate to say it, but certain idols, all of a sudden, that's where that corruptness starts leaking in. And from the top down, we're the ones who are guilty for it, including myself, as much as I hate to say that. And
that's true.
And as big and as broad as that question is, I still think the rawness of it comes down, I mean, we could debate it all day long. It still comes down to the head leaderships. It just does.
It does.
It's amazing. You look at a man like Billy Graham, and the reason why I say that is because I think we all know he's about the only person besides Jesus himself that literally has walked this earth and has showed such humility, amazing integrity, and yet we all know straight up, man, just as much as Jesus was tempted, heck yeah, he's been tempted, stretched, opportunities put there, but this was a man who just did such diligence and kept himself so humble. And look at the legacy that he's left. I mean, just saying that name alone, whether you're a believer or not, you know who that person is. And here's what's crazy.
Yeah.
When you look, if you go search on the internet, you don't find a whole lot of negative things about his hypocrisy and him being hypocritical and things and whatnot. You just don't find that.
You don't find that, man.
And I think that speaks for itself. And here would be my question is, if you search, and I see I'm about to step on toes, and I'm
Do
not
it.
gonna, but it's, it's, I'm just trying to say it as honest as I can, and that is
Do
this:
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah.
go, if you go search other people's names,
Yeah.
and you see all of the things that come up for them as pastors and leaders and
Uh-oh.
preachers
Uh-oh.
and
Uh-oh.
evangelists. Here's what my question would be. If my name popped up and I had forum after forum, blog after blog, man, I think I would be asking myself, okay, God, what is it that I've done to cause this? Because truth be known, there's obviously things that I have allowed myself to be open and exposed to. Now,
Yeah.
the arrogant ones will rise up and say, well, no, that's what happens when evil comes against you. But
Right.
truth be known, there is a place and a point where you got to look at yourself and go, there's all of these questions. So
Yeah.
why? And, those of you who are listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about in that. And
Here's
I think,
Go ahead.
and
Yeah.
I think that's where, we've got to be really honest with ourselves. And that is, what as leaders are we doing to the name of the church?
And
Because we're
yeah.
carrying that.
And here's a point to jump on that, man. It's called a piggyback. I'm about to piggyback on what
Come
you
on.
just said, and it's this. And there are people out there that have built churches that have built churches that aren't they're not approachable like that, Scott. They're not
Yeah.
willing for somebody to ask a question. They're not going to go and search themselves. They're not going to go and search themselves out. They're not going to allow someone who is a subordinate to talk to them a certain way. And I feel like that's dangerous when
It's
you
huge.
won't allow someone to say, "Hey, listen, I saw this in you. Man, you might want to check that." And people will say from the stage that they do that. But in reality, come on.
Oh no. Well,
Especially if it's somebody who's a subordinate or somebody that you're paying. You're like, dude, I'm paying you. How are you going to check me and I'm
yep.
paying you?
And guess what? Guess what that looks like to me? That looks like to me any big business like Walmart, any big business like Enron, any big business like Google, any of these major companies. But here's the thing. When those companies were at their beginnings, I guarantee you those wise business guys were actually asking for the advice and hearing it. It's amazing that as we become these giants, all of a sudden the little ears that are further down on the ground that actually have lots of wisdom because we're way up in an atmosphere we ain't listening or being aware of. And
Yeah,
yet those are the ones we're trying to impart to. And yet they've gone, I can't even listen to you anymore because you're not even hearing. And I tell you
right.
what kills me in that is the fact that these mega empires, these massive churches have quickly moved to that position. And I know it is none of these key pastors and leaders ever desire from the beginning that would get to it, but it's a sense of reality that's there. It
It is.
happens.
I was told by leadership at a church that I should not spend my time at the bottom.
Wow.
Someone they told me that. They said that. Don't spend your time at the bottom. And I'm looking across, I'm like, spend my time at the bottom. I shouldn't be. You should spend 10% of your time with people who don't have the right leadership qualities. And I'm like, what? What are
Wow.
you talking about? I have a heart for every single person. Now, can I touch everybody? I can't. I can't get to everybody. But what if that person knew what the leadership was telling me?
Yeah.
Scott, that kind of mentality is dangerous to me.
Huge. Huge.
I get it. I get it. We need leaders. We need people to help volunteer and lead. But man, I've seen it time and time again. We don't know what pouring into somebody, saying something incredible that's going to light that person up to where they will rise up.
Yeah.
But we won't spend the time to speak into that person. And so that kind of mentality is dangerous coming from leadership. When you get so big, you get so bad, you're like, man, don't spend your time down there with them. Man, you need to be up here in the atmosphere. Man, wow. Yeah. I was told that, and that was pretty disheartening. I was disillusioned. I'm like, I thought I was a minister, not a manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
And here's the other thing too, is when you hear things as well, like things that I've heard, that have been those statements of, be careful of letting people get too close and really see certain things of you, and trying to like make a certain, you're supposed to look a certain way or act a certain way. And my thing in that is, dude, if I got to dress up to be something, dude, nobody's going to buy anything I have to say, because eventually they're going to see what's actually underneath that suit. And here's a big thing, man. And I know we live in a little bit different culture and age now, where leaders look a little bit different on stage, and we don't see nearly as many suits. But I will tell you this, at a young age, I remember looking at suits and going, so what's really underneath that?
That's so funny, man. It reminds me of a quote.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you remember that quote Tony Stark gave to Peter Parker? Remember when he told him at the end of this recent reboot of Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark said, "Listen, if you need the costume that I made for you, if you need to dress up in that to make yourself somebody, then you were never somebody."
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
You were never somebody. If you need it, if that's what you need to be somebody, then you never, you know what I'm saying? It just kind of goes with what you were just saying about dressing up to be something. No. We don't have to do that. What's underneath that thing? What is underneath that? Scott, that's good. That's good.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
So
hold on go ahead.
No, that was it. That's all I had. Boom.
Hold on for a second. I gotta let my dog out.
We're probably gonna cut this part out.
Sorry. I was waiting. I was just waiting for her to start barking, and I was like, that's not gonna work.
You're so funny.
So, all right.
So,
no, that's such a great quote, and so true. You know what though? It'd be like them dang Marvels to throw something like that at you.
I know, man, but my son was walking around. We were comparing DC versus Marvel.
Oh man!
And he said that Batman is better than Iron Man, but Marvel is better than DC. I was like, hold on. You may agree with that though.
Whoa. I want to hear this. I want to hear.
No, that was it. He was just walking around saying Batman is better than Iron Man, but Marvel is better than DC. See, wow. DC has Superman though. Man, I'm too big of a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know. I hear you. I have to say, I've never really been pulled to necessarily one or the other. I gotta be real honest with you. And you know how much of a Superman, carrier I am. People think I'm this huge Superman fan, but reality is, for all of you out there, the reality is it's only because it's the initial of my name. I kind of got labeled with it.
See?
But in all of that, I still to this day struggle with even knowing who's on what team.
See, that's what happens. That's what happens when you get beat up by the church, man. See, that's what happens. You don't know who's on what team,
dude. Oh man, now you just unleashed another bag.
That is another. That's a topic for another conversation, man. I'm gonna tongue lash you after goes off the air.
So here's the deal, all of you listening out there. That's basically how this show is going to end up happening. Is that we're literally going to be going from one subject to another just because things are gonna pop open like that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I mean, again, we're coming fresh out of the gate, but what I'd love to say is, Cam, we probably need to get like a Facebook page, and what I would love to do is see, if people got questions, like what's y'all's take on this, or what's your thoughts on this? I mean, listen, we want to be able to just kind of stir up some conversation in a good way, but just to kind of bring some perspective and thought. Maybe it's something that you've wrestled with, and you'd like to be able to hear some ideas or thoughts, but without it getting, the tough part, man, is social media. Is we have certainly learned how to attack one another, and that's one thing that we're just not going to have. But this gives you a place where you do have the ability to hear some ideas, some thoughts that you may agree with, you may not, and that's totally understandable. But maybe it'll help open some perspective to you that you haven't really been willing to necessarily see or think about, or maybe these are perspectives you have been, and you just need to be reaffirmed. Okay, good. I'm not the only one in this place or in this world that feels this way.
Absolutely. Scott, I'm with you 100%. So if you're listening this, you're hanging out in your car or whatever, listen, go to Facebook, find us, leave a message. Again, we're not attacking. We're not name calling. We're giving perspective. This is fresh. I mean, I want people to breathe and say, you know what? I'm not alone. I've been beat up by things in life too. We're going to give you a perspective. So if you have something you want to say, you have a subject you want to hear us talk about, you know what? Bring it up. Let us know, because this is going to be that place. You've got two uncles here, H and H. You got two uncles awesome. Here who, guess what? We care about you.
Yeah.
We care about what happens to you. We care if you're hurt. And and that's another thing. This is another subject, Scott. Wow. The subject of I feel like we use the word love too much.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we say love too much, and we actually don't mean love. And we especially do that in the church. That's another subject, another time. But anyway, if that's you out there, listen, find us, message us. We're available. We respond. You can reach us and let us know. We want to hear your story. All right.
Thanks for taking the time to check us out and to just spend this time with us. And we look forward to jumping back on here and getting into another subject with you very soon.